Dear students, let us start the discussions on 29th January 2016 newspaper. The first article is related to the ongoing talks between Taliban and the Afghan government. Now, you all know that there is official quadrilateral talks between Taliban and the government. This includes Pakistan, China, United States, and Afghanistan. They did very little progress. These are called Murray talks. Now, there is an independent agency, that is Pugwash Conference. It is conducting these talks along with the Qatar government. Now, Taliban are willing to participate, which they rejected in the previous quadrilateral talks. In this context, the Afghan government was not willing to participate or become a party to these talks. In this context, why the talks are important now? Did Taliban change its course, and what are the challenges ahead? What is the learning for India from this? Now, the Taliban, once the spring arises, an environment becomes favorable, and the climate becomes favorable in the case of Afghanistan, with a little number of the foreign troops on Afghanistan soil, an unleashing of the bloodshed can pose a challenge to the Afghanistan government. So the worst of two evils is to engage with the Taliban rather than making the country to move into instability and violence further. And second is, there is an electoral election fraud. Let us take a small history to this. During the previous elections after Hamid Karzai's 2 terms are over, both the President and Prime Minister, who are the Ashraf Ghani and also the Abdullah, both these people belong to the opposition parties and they have contested the elections and none of them got the majority. A national unity government was formed with both opposition parties with American mediation, and people lost some confidence in the government of the day, and legitimacy of the government is in question. So the Afghan government will not be in a position to make its wit possible throughout the Afghanistan, and the Afghan forces are not properly trained yet to the day, and with no international support, to what extent it can extend its governance mechanisms to the beyond the Kabul is a major question. Finally, Taliban, they themselves have hinted at a negotiation and a negotiated settlement to the Afghan problem. Did Taliban change? So they have learned, it appears that they learned certain statecraft. So they promise that they will allow for the modernization of the education and also women participation in various governance structures. And the next is they realized the importance of the economic development of a country. So you can see that recently they have supported the Tapi pipeline, that is Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline. Finally, they are also receptive to the idea of power sharing. So Afghanistan being a diverse country with deep tribal loyalties, one single party or sect or a group governing the entire nation is difficult. So Taliban have realized this, and they are ready or acknowledge the fact that monopoly of the power is not possible in Afghanistan now. So in this context, what are the potential roadblocks? So the Afghanistan government expects the Taliban to negotiate within the framework of the Afghan constitution, which declares itself as an Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. On the other hand, Taliban calls it as an Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, where a Sharia law will be implemented. And the second thing is, the Pakistan has a definitive role to derail this peace process to protect its vested interests. And finally, the Taliban, they are still unwilling to participate in the democratic exercise. They are not sure of their electoral victory, and they still rely on the power of the gun. Now, without coming through democratic process, power sharing through democratic process, so no government will be willing to give a space to the Taliban to function. So what is the way out for India? India has a very much a resentment towards the Taliban because of its past experiences. But however, the times are changing. So India has to respond to this change, or else its role gets minimized or become irrelevant in this region. So, post-Taliban era, India's engagement with Afghanistan appears highly relevant and practical, and this shall continue. And also it has to acknowledge that the peace, power sharing in Afghanistan are very critical for stability of India. Recently, Taliban also assured that they will not allow their soil to use by the other countries to promote the terror activities. So this way, India's concerns of terrorism through Taliban, they can be reduced through an effective engagement of India. So that's what is the argument is. Now coming to the West Asia, Iran-China relationships. You know that Xi Jinping, he has visited recently to Iran, and even during the sanctions era, Iran and China trade has flourished, and China is the largest investor in Iran. So China is bound to gain after the post-sanctions phase. That is the post-sanctions phase. The reason being is already the relation got strengthened during the sanctions phase itself. So in this context, what are the needs of China? One is energy security. The pet project of Mr. Z, that is One Belt One Road initiative, under this, the connectivity to West Asia and Central Asia can happen through can happen through Iran. Finally, China, it wants to diversify its oil imports, and also the US has no presence in Iran. So if it wants to influence the West Asia politics, which it is recently engaging very strongly, it has to maintain the relationships with Iran. So from this perspective, so you can see the recent active participation of China in the West Asian politics. Coming to the centralization of political system in India. So whenever there is a strong leader with effective mandate from the people, and when elections are fought in the name of the leader rather than in the name of a party, then Prime Minister and Senator, Chief Minister's office, they are gaining a huge control over the administrative process. You can see this during the Indira Gandhi era and also during the Prime Minister Modi's era now. Now, I'll add it to this, many of the Chief Ministers stand as an examples to this. So what are the positives and negative sides of this? Generally, a party or else a leader can have a control over the party if he has got an effective control over the people. So the government party coordination and leaders control is responsible for the centralization of the politics from Nehru Kirpalani era to the present day Amit Shah and Modi era. This rule continues. So now any decentralization may lead to delay in decision making process and over concentration of authority, but it also guards the country against factionalism and also provides for a unity of command. But however, India is built to be a cabinet form of government rather than a prime ministerial government. But however, the constitution itself has provided a scope for the prime minister to have the control over its council of ministers. But however, if you see the past experience, centralization has led to certain anarchy and unpopular decisions such as emergency. And the state power, or the chief ministers, they are more loyal to the high command rather than to the people. And the centralized leadership also slowly lost the touch with reality, and they become the victims of the cocooning of the power structure. This is what are the challenges in anywhere with the centralized system. Coming to the GDP calculation, you know that last year the GDP calculation has changed. Previously we used to calculate the GDP on a base year of 2004 and 5, now it is 2011 and 12. And second is, GDP was calculated at the fixed prices and now it is changed to the market prices. So, the Raghuram Rajan, he wants to change the way we calculate the GDP so that the real effect can be understood. And finally, IMF changes. You know that the emerging economies do not have an effective share representing their economic might in the IMF. Reflecting this, the voting rights or voting percentages have changed. India's voting rights increased from 2.3 to 2.6%. China from 3.8% to the 6%. And second, previously, the top five contributors, they had a right to appoint an executive director. These appointed executive directors are removed and any director has to be elected now. Coming to smart cities, I like few points in this. One is the smart cities will be selected on the basis of so-called competition rather than something called as political priorities. And second, a credit rating system will be given to the every corporation so that the investors can identify which is good and which is bad and what is the financial position of a corporation. And on the other hand, there will be an integration with the central governmental programs. They complement each other. So, and fourth thing is, the states act to equally contribute towards the development of the urban governance. These are the positive aspects of this. Now, block level rain forecast. Now, as of now, the rain forecast or else weather forecast in India, it is at the district level. But the districts in few of the states such as West Bengal, UP, Andhra Pradesh, they are so large that the district itself has many intra-regional or intra-block variations. Now we have taken the weather forecasting close to the particular block level. And second, previously we used to take the weather forecasting based on statistical data. Now we are slowly shifting to the numerical weather models which are followed in the West. So it means we can get more reliable data now. Finally, the Zika virus is doing rounds. It is caused by a mosquito bite and Aedes aegypti is the mosquito. It is the mosquito that causes some so-called chikungunya and also the dengue fever. And this mosquito is very much prevalent in India. So hopefully this Zika virus don't travel to India. Finally, educational institutions. Now, any education, the challenges are related to access, equity, quality, choice, and values. So the lack of financial muscle is limiting the access. And next is equity. So all the people are not given equal access to the educational resources. Quality, it is diminishing due to privatization. There is a rapid expansion of the institutions in the higher education with diminishing quality. The choice, it is also very, low because only few qualitative educational institutions are available in the higher education. So finally, the casteism and communalism, it is eroding the value system of the higher education. So in this context, recently in Tamil Nadu, few students unable to pay the fee, they committed the suicides. So in this, to face these challenges, the regulation of the higher education system, improving the quality of regulation by filling the loopholes is suggested in this article. So the increased litigation in the higher education also need to be addressed. The professionalization of the regulatory affairs, least involvement of the government, addressing the corruption, building the capacities of the regulatory agencies, all these are very much required to provide for effective grievance redressal solutions to the students on the quality of education. So thank you very much. All the best.